So first thing I'm going to say is that this is meant to be less of a reaction, more about various insignificant or possibly even nitpick commentary as I watch the Bub series. Now I've been watching the series on iQIYI. I have the standard subscription, and apparently, at least in the North American region, if you get the premium subscription, you can watch all 8 episodes in one go. I decided not to upgrade. I would rather not follow the binge model because I do think the binge model severely cuts down on the length of time that talk about a series does stay relevant, or at least on the internet, the sphere and the commentary about it. So I'm going to actually let this drag out for 1 month as I get 2 episodes per week on Thursday at 9 p.m. Okay, let's get started. So I think the first thing to say is that for their very first major acting project, their acting is fine. It's pretty good, honestly, because I have seen the clips from Omana, and frankly, I've seen worse acting in some Z horror movies. So I think for their very first acting project, their acting is good. I would say maybe the one thing that would need to be worked on, and that's just something that they will learn if they learn the craft more. I believe I saw one person on Twitter saying how sometimes things look too rehearsed, and I do agree with that. Again, these are just based on the first 2 episodes, but that's just something as an actor, you learn the lines, you rehearse the lines, you learn the blocking, and then when it comes to the cameras rolling, you're on stage, you technically have to forget all that because your character is living things in the moment. Alright, so I feel like one of the first nitpick technical things I noticed is the fact that the shirt Rie is wearing, the UFC logo is blurred out. Now obviously it's because I imagine they couldn't get clearance for it, but it's just particularly funny on this shirt because UFC is written literally all over it, but I guess specifically the logo had to be blocked out. I am curious because I believe from the character introduction video for Eden on the Emotion Studios YouTube channel, that Mill is wearing a shirt that says UFC on it, so I'm imagining that's going to be blocked out as blurred out as well. And I know later in the next scene, well, no, not the next scene, in the photo shoot scene, they had to blur out the name of whatever the brand is, but that one's particularly weird for me because again, I don't know if it's the situation where they didn't know, they thought they had clearance, but they didn't, or they couldn't get it. Because later on, I think I have seen in other character introduction videos, I can't remember which one, where they do put a hello balloon over it in order to cover it up. So I'm curious of what happened there, but I guess it is what it is. All right, so in the next scene, we get the big character exposition dump, as well as the inciting incident.
저는 라이언 아트에게 비즈니스 게이 퍼포먼스를 제안합니다.
But first thing I'm going to say is I have read the webtoons, or I read a scanlation that went up to chapter 22, and then from then on, I believe those scanlations were based on someone's translation of the webcomic, but it's just the text and dialogue. But based on what I can remember from the webtoons, I believe there was a good change here in the scene where Eden's internalized homophobia is less intensely expressed, or they really toned it down, which makes the character a bit more likable, frankly. Though if not, he's still innocently cute. Though maybe that's just Mill. Other than that, I would say a second thing that's toned down from the webtoon is the callousness of the CEO in the scene. In the webtoon, when Eden very vehemently says he doesn't want to do the business gay performance concept, the CEO was very like cold in her response that like you're easily replaceable. We already have an idea of the second person who can take your place. Where in here, her dialogue, it's just like, well, we'll just find out other options. But that definitely lightens her character as well. So besides the changes from the webtoon, obviously the biggest thing I noticed was that they were using OnlyOneOf's music videos and various vlogs and I guess promotional materials in the show itself. As a Lion viewer, it was very jarring because suddenly reality was intruding on this fictional world. But I imagine they didn't have the time or budget to go off and shoot a fake music video or even try to fake New York City or I guess any other US city. But yeah, it took me out. I had to like it's like, oh, okay, the quality of the music video is very different from the show. I will say that. Other than that, I think for multiple rewatches, it's such a short clip, but for whatever reason, the actors are out of focus. What's in focus is the board behind them. But I mean, it goes by so fast that you're not going to catch it. But I had an entire week to watch this over and over again. So I did eventually catch it. It's strange because to me, it's like, so that was the only shot you had, I guess, because your only shot is completely out of focus on the actors. But again, something you're not going to notice because it actually goes by really quickly. But luckily we have the pause button. And speaking of pausing and rewinding, so we have this moment of JiHoon's first pass on Eden, let's just say that, where the CEO looks pleased, the manager looks cheerful, and Eden actually looks like he blue screened of death here, and it's kind of adorable. And JiHoon's having fun teasing him. Now this is the very same as the webtoon where the next scene is basically a time jump to their first photo shoot together, which I will say, I mean, story-wise it makes sense because it's a continuation of Eden's uncertainty with the concept, but I will say they did tone down the first, I guess it would be the first major skinship that was from the comic, because in this one, he does a very cute nose nuzzle. I'm obsessed with this nose nuzzle. I've literally replayed the scene a number of times. It just keeps going. I just can't stop looking at it. I'm sure some of you may understand. Even if it's not with this scene, it will be for other things as well. Either way, in the webtoons, it's like way more intense, where like JiHoon is holding down Eden on the piano by his wrist. Here it's like, okay, we'll just give you a cute little nose nuzzle. Look at this nose nuzzle. So I think this is one nitpick, which I'm imagine. This is not specific to this series. I think this is almost to any Asian Asian drama. I don't like. The slow-mo tends to always feel like an afterthought. Like clearly it's not very smooth, so therefore it's something that's like we'll figure it out in post-production, but if you want smooth slow-mo, you need to film at a higher frame rate. At the same time though, depending if you're filming at a higher frame rate, then you also need a different setup with lighting because that I believe requires more light exposures. To give an example of lighting that you need for slow motion, I recorded this with my phone. It's just a Samsung S20 FE. But yeah, as you can see from like, especially from normal and super slow motion, the super slow motion seems like it's being absolutely swallowed up in darkness. And I mean, it's hard to tell with normal slow motion. I think in terms of any lighting difference is very minimal, at least based on the footage that I recorded here. But yeah, this is what I mean. Obviously, I mean, any television film is not going to be recording at 960 frames per second. I think usually it would just be the 240 frames per second. At least that's what I have read. But yeah. But yeah, this is a nitpick, obviously, that I have towards some of the Asian dramas that I've seen. Maybe it's just the Asian dramas I've seen, but yeah, not a nitpick specific to Bump Up Business. That said, I could see the reasoning being made that the jaggedy slow motion works for this scene on a creative level, as JiHoon and Eden are both preparing for their debut. Now, later on, we get them tentatively, or at least Eden tentatively, trying to make a definition of what their relationship is to each other. And it's just business.
그렇죠. 일이죠.
Now, I do have to say in this next scene, one thing I'm very curious about. Do the posters and on the sides say anything, like anything important or anything cute? I'm just curious. I really want to know. But also, I do have a small nitpick here. Something I noticed where I guess their script supervisor either didn't catch this note or something happened during filming, but Eden, you're looking at the wrong hand. Jihoon held your left one, not your right one. But that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because, well, you know what scene is upcoming.
네가 원했으니까.
All right, episode 2. And it was all a dream. Though here's one thing I have to ask. Eden, do you set your alarm at 3:14? Or did you actually sleep for 14 or even 4 minutes through your alarm? Because as a light sleeper, I am very impressed. So I think this smacking of the handweight in this scene exemplifies one of the things that in terms of things that can be improved on in acting, which is things feeling too rehearsed. But the most important thing I have to nitpick is why in the world did they do a freeze frame on this moment? The only thing I could think of is that they wanted more of a pause between the two characters, but they didn't have any sort of take for that to make that work. So they inserted 2 still images, which I legitimately thought my internet froze until I obviously been watching this over and over and over again and realized that, oh no, this is something that the production decided, yeah, that's okay to do. Clearly, I don't think it's okay to do. It makes no sense to me. I don't know why it's there. If they didn't have to take, then they don't have to take. Don't do the still image thing. But who cares, because Jihoon's going for a second pass.
나야?
오늘 인터뷰.
Okay, so we have the next series of scenes, which I would say exemplifies Eden's innocence, naivety, and inexperience when it comes to the idol industry in terms of dealing with the media and fans. So we have the interviewer who takes Eden's words and twists it in a way to make JiHoon look bad. And that part of this is also because of what Eden had overheard from Do. Oh no! How do you wait? What's the character name for Rie's character?
굿모닝. 형.
Donggun. I'm not saying that right. I don't think I've been saying anything right, but whatever. Either way, Eden has overheard his comments and is not in the best of moods when doing this interview. Now, I also think this scene exemplifies JiHoon's own experience in dealing with these matters. But one nitpick I do have with this interview sequence is the very abrupt switch in topic to the water skiing. Obviously, that was a way to introduce the water skiing for the next episode, but I wish there was a smoother way they could have done it. I mean, the editing is, I think it doesn't help that the editing is somewhat off in this scene, or they just didn't have the takes that they need. Because from what I can see, the interviewer is looking at JiHoon when he's asking the question, and then suddenly it abrupt cuts to Eden answering the question, which, you know, that could be on purpose. I do wish there's a way they could have done that where you can hear Eden starting to speak, have the interviewer react, and then cut to Eden's shot. Otherwise, I think that would make the editing of that smoother. I do also wonder, because I feel like I'm remembering in the webcomic, there was a hint that the interviewer had maybe broke one of the scandals in the past. So in some way, I do wish there was a reaction on the interviewer to see, it's like, okay, I've stepped on the landmine. Let's just back off, ask a different question away from what we were talking about.
선배님,
이든 씨가 외모와는 다르게 만능 스포츠맨이라 들었는데
청소년 시절을 미국에서 보내다 보니 학교에서 친구들과
After that, we get nice moments of JiHoon uplifting Eden's confidence after knowing he overheard what his former training mate said. I know the first time I watched this, I thought that the editing was too much, or they were cutting too much back and forth between the characters. I am actually not sure how I feel about that initial thought. I don't know if it's just an editing style, or I think I'm used to an editing style where it's you hear a character speaking and then you cut to their shot and vice versa. But yeah, no, I couldn't say if it's cutting too much or not. Maybe if someone who's more well versed with editing could make their own feedback or comments, I would really love to know. And of course it goes into his third pass, or just his constant teasing.
그게 네.
아니 꿈에서 내가 뭘 했는데?
All right, so the second part of Eden's inexperience on display. And I will say, these fans are like rather orderly. It literally looked like they all just rushed to the stage, but then they also all neatly put themselves in a nice line. Like there is no one telling them where to go. They just did themselves. Not gonna lie, I'm impressed. Because I cannot imagine this happening in any sort of event setting, whether it's for an idol fan sign or not. One of the other things I noticed was the fast forwarding of JiHoon signing his signature. Obviously, they wanted to fit that shot within a specific length of time. And I wondered or not whether they could have edited in a way where it cuts to him in the middle of signing. But I mean, usually you want to edit things on an action. So In that case, you would need him actually stopping writing the signature in the shot and then lifting his pen up, and then the next shot will be following that movement of him lifting his pen up. Even if it's not on screen, you can still see the motion in his body. Now, one minor change I want to note from the webtoons is Eden's interaction or attempt to deal with the male fan. I feel like because this is a visual medium, you're not going to get the internal dialogue showing Eden's hesitance for the request for a hug. But I feel like in this scene, if they filmed his hesitation, they didn't leave it in. It seemed they purposely cut it out because it seemed like he's very naive. Like, sure, you want a hug? I'll give you a hug. And JiHoon has to come and step in before anything could possibly happen. Which I have to say, I think the fan in the webcomic was a bit salty about not getting his hug from Eden. This one, he's totally fine. He's like, yeah, sure, that's acceptable. Now in the next scene, Eden gets scolded by JiHoon for not having enough caution with the fan interactions, but I guess he needed to show by example by going for his fourth pass.
선배님.
Okay, so those are the first two episodes. I guess I'll be back with this with the third and fourth. Now, I believe I am planning to upload this on the 27th because I know the other regions get the first 3 episodes then. That said, next time I'm writing a script, because trying to do commentary off the cuff was really, really hard. I'm sure I've missed things. Maybe I possibly even misconstrued something. Maybe there's something that, hey, change in terms of industry standards, or some things are just differently done in Korean television. Who knows? But I will be back with episode 3 and 4.